Why breaking a good man creates a fear in an avoidant woman
Did
she
I
can
lose
never
him
escape.
forever?
Imagine breaking a genuinely good man, then watching his silence change everything inside you. An avoidant woman may fear losing someone only after realizing she destroyed something valuable. At first, she might believe distance protects her from emotional pressure and overwhelming intimacy. She may convince herself that leaving was necessary, even when nothing truly threatened her. The good man keeps loving quietly, but eventually stops chasing, explaining, begging, and proving. That change can create an unfamiliar silence that reaches places avoidance once successfully protected. Suddenly, she notices something uncomfortable. He is no longer waiting patiently for her return. She is forced to recognize that emotional availability cannot remain permanently guaranteed after repeated rejection. She may have assumed his patience would always survive every cycle of emotional distance. Instead, she discovers that kindness does not mean someone will tolerate endless emotional uncertainty. And this is where her deepest fear may begin quietly revealing itself to her. She starts wondering whether she permanently lost someone who genuinely understood and valued her. That question can become louder when she realizes other connections lack his emotional consistency. The good man probably tolerated things that many others would have immediately rejected completely. He may have forgiven emotional distance, confusing behavior, mixed signals, and repeated withdrawal repeatedly. He might have offered patience without humiliating her for needing emotional space sometimes too. But patience has a limit when love repeatedly becomes a one-sided emotional sacrifice eventually. Eventually, he chooses himself, and that decision can completely change her entire perception forever. She may suddenly see his previous availability as something precious rather than guaranteed anymore. His absence becomes louder because his presence once provided emotional safety without demanding perfection. Now, she must confront feelings that distance previously helped her avoid and suppress completely. Regret can appear slowly, because avoidant emotions often become clearer after emotional distance itself. She may remember ordinary moments that previously seemed insignificant, but now feel deeply meaningful. His kindness may suddenly become more memorable than the conflicts she once emphasized before. She might replay conversations, wondering whether she pushed away someone genuinely safe and loyal. This can create a painful contradiction between wanting closeness and fearing emotional vulnerability simultaneously. She wants to know whether he still cares, but fears discovering that he doesn't. So she may begin checking indirectly through social media, mutual friends, or casual messages. Sometimes the smallest sign of his happiness can trigger surprisingly intense emotional reactions inside. Seeing him move forward can force her to recognize that time keeps moving forward. She cannot indefinitely pause the relationship while expecting his heart to remain available forever. This realization may create anxiety because control becomes impossible once another person emotionally detaches. She may have believed she could return whenever she finally felt comfortable enough emotionally. But emotional detachment changes the entire equation because the other person develops new boundaries. Those boundaries can feel frightening when she remembers how accessible he once remained emotionally. He no longer responds instantly, explains everything, or accepts emotional crumbs as meaningful connection. That does not necessarily mean he hates her or wants revenge against her either. It simply means he finally understands that love cannot survive without mutual emotional participation. And that understanding can become one of the strongest things she remembers emotionally forever. A good man leaving peacefully can be more confronting than someone leaving angrily sometimes. Anger gives people something to blame, but peaceful detachment removes that emotional distraction completely. She may realize there is nobody left to fight, persuade, control, or emotionally manage. There is simply a man who finally stopped abandoning himself for someone else completely. That realization can awaken fear because she recognizes her own role in losing him. She may wonder whether another woman will eventually receive the love she once rejected. This possibility can become painful because replacement makes the loss feel completely permanent afterward. But the deepest fear is not necessarily losing him to another woman entirely completely. It can be realizing she lost the version of herself around him completely forever. He may have brought out patience, tenderness, honesty, and emotional safety she rarely experienced. Now those qualities remain connected to memories she cannot simply erase through avoidance anymore. She may date others and still compare their emotional presence with what he provided. Not because he was perfect, but because consistency can become unforgettable after emotional instability. She may finally understand that emotional safety felt boring only because chaos felt familiar. That realization can hurt deeply because it challenges the protective story she once believed. She once thought distance meant freedom, but now distance may feel like irreversible loss. This is where breaking a good man can create a lasting emotional fear inside. She learns that someone can love deeply while eventually choosing dignity over continued uncertainty. And once she understands that, her old strategy may never feel completely safe again. She may become more cautious about pushing away someone who genuinely treats her well. Every future relationship can remind her that good people also have breaking points eventually. She may fear repeating the same pattern with someone who feels emotionally secure again. That fear can become especially strong when she notices herself withdrawing during intimate moments. Instead of feeling completely protected by distance, she may remember what distance previously cost. She may also begin questioning whether independence was truly freedom or simply emotional protection. What once felt like control can eventually resemble loneliness when meaningful connection disappears completely. She may recognize that pushing someone away does not erase the emotional bond instantly. Sometimes separation simply gives hidden feelings enough space to become impossible ignoring anymore. Memories can become especially powerful during quiet nights, when distractions finally disappear completely. She may remember how he listened without immediately judging her fears or emotional reactions. She may remember his consistency during moments when she could not consistently offer anything. These memories can create an uncomfortable contrast between what she rejected and what she now misses. The mind can romanticize the past, but genuine consistency can still leave lasting emotional impressions. She may realize that not every person will patiently understand her emotional defenses forever. Some people will simply walk away after realizing the relationship repeatedly damages their peace. That possibility can create fear because it removes the illusion that everyone will keep waiting. She may finally understand that losing someone good does not always create another opportunity. Sometimes the person leaves quietly, heals completely, and becomes unavailable without creating unnecessary drama. That is when regret can become heavier, because there is no conflict left to resolve. She may wish she had communicated differently when communication could have changed everything between them. She may wish she had stayed during moments when vulnerability felt uncomfortable and frightening. She may wish she had recognized his patience as love instead of weakness or desperation. And she may eventually understand that his emotional strength was never about controlling her. His strength was knowing when love required him to stop sacrificing himself completely. That realization can permanently change how she views the relationship and her own behavior. She may carry that lesson into future relationships, even when she never admits it openly. The fear is therefore not simply about losing one particular man from her life. It is about recognizing that her avoidance may have destroyed something genuinely difficult to replace, and that realization can remain emotionally powerful long after the relationship has ended completely. A good man does not need revenge to become unforgettable after leaving someone behind. Sometimes his absence becomes the consequence that teaches what his presence never could. He teaches through distance that love without reciprocity eventually becomes emotional exhaustion for both people. He teaches that boundaries are not punishment, and silence is not always manipulation either. Most importantly, he proves that someone can deeply love you and still walk away. Once an avoidant woman understands that truth, emotional avoidance may never feel completely safe again. Because somewhere inside her, one question may continue quietly returning. What if I lost him forever? And sometimes, that question becomes the fear she can never completely escape.